Hey, how are you? Oh my goodness, you all look so beautiful and smart. Hello. Hey. Hey, how are you?
Wow, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. The children look so lovely right now.
Thank you very much. The party is special. The public relations manager, Faith, is going to lead us.
Yes. Yes.
Coleman.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. My name is Faith.
It's lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So today, we, as Rose of Sharon, we would like to thank you for the support you have given us. Thank you so much for supporting our children to grow and be future leaders. We would like to express our hearty thanks to the Saving Orphans Worldwide team for the great work they are doing to help our children achieve their dreams. And together we say,
Woo! Well, we are so happy to be partnering with Rose of Sharon. You guys are all so lovely. Oh my goodness, you're the most beautiful children. And wonderful future leaders.
Yes, they are future leaders.
Amen. Amen. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Thanks, and yourself.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yes. Thank you so much for being willing to do this with us today.
Thank you very much, Coleman.
Well, if it's okay, if you would let me introduce you to everybody watching this right now. This is Dr. Maruta, and she is one of the most brilliant women I have ever encountered. She is a wonderful leader in Zimbabwe. She's the director of the Rose of Sharon Children's Home. And again, more than just being the director of Rose of Sharon Children's Home, although that is the most wonderful honor I could attribute to you. She's a wonderful leader throughout Zimbabwe. She's been recognized in Zimbabwe, being the recipient of several awards. She just recently got recognized in a major publication called The People of Zimbabwe. And again, she's the director of Rose of Sharon Children's Home. Rose of Sharon Children's Home, right now you guys are in the Bethel home, which with the youngest children. Rose of Sharon Children's Home, it exists in 4 separate homes, all connected to one another. And it's over 100 children there, and you've been doing ministry there for quite some time. But again, it is lovely to see you. It's lovely to have you with us this morning. I'm so greatly appreciative that you've taken the time to be with us this morning, and I'm so honored to have you here on our social media page this morning. Before we go any further in this interview, first and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Thanks, and yourself.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yeah, and so we've been doing these interviews with directors of projects from all around the world for the last couple months, largely in response to what's going on with this global pandemic. I know the numbers in Zimbabwe are very low right now, but how are you guys doing in Zimbabwe in regards to the coronavirus?
All right. We are still under lockdown, but our lives have been affected greatly. Number one, the children are no longer going to school. They are always indoors, and that's really affecting them. And number two, because of the lockdown, the prices are skyrocketing every day. It's difficult for us to come across, the basic foodstuffs. like maize, sugar, and cooking oil, because the suppliers are also finding it difficult to bring things to the market. So our lives have been changed in a great deal.
Yeah, I know even before the virus, from the time I was there, there were some economic issues in Zimbabwe. Have you seen a greater impact of those same issues?
Yes, we are still dealing with the same issues. Our hyperinflationary environment is really affecting us because the inflation now is standing at 800%, and the food prices, have been going up to more than 600%. And it's beyond the reach of most people. And most people, especially the ordinary person, has become very, very poor. We cannot access these basic commodities. It is very, very difficult. Even other services like healthcare, even paying for accommodation, everything is just skyrocketed, and life has become very difficult for us.
Yeah, yeah. And, again, for those watching and maybe a little unfamiliar with what Zimbabwe has been going through, inflation has, like she said, skyrocketed 600%, which is just kind of hard to conceptualize. But, I mean, that's having a massive effect on not only the economy. A lot of times we'll talk about economy, you can just have that as an overarching statement, but it affects the ordinary lives of so many different individuals. And with this virus having economic ramifications around the globe, it's had ramifications big time with you guys. I know when I asked you, how are things going, one of the first things you brought up was education. And if I'm thinking of Rose of Sharon Children's Home, there are a couple of things, characteristics that I just immediately think about. And I think the first one is education. You guys value education unlike I think any project I've encountered around the world, and I've encountered a lot of projects, but the value you guys place on education is just so high. Right now, you said the school is shut down. How are you maintaining that high value of education in the midst of a lockdown?
We've come up with different ways on how to go across the hurdle. Number one, we are offering lessons on WhatsApp. We've employed 2 persons who are specialized in that area, together with our IT specialist, Boaz. They are helping a great deal in ensuring that the children are getting some lessons over the WhatsApp. And then they can also get one-to-one lessons from the 2 teachers that we've appointed to assist us in that area.
Yeah, I'm sure Boaz is a great help. Hopefully he's not getting in any trouble around with you guys, but is he working the camera right now?
Yes, he's holding the iPad.
Well, Boaz, hello. I hope you're doing all right too. I can't see you right now, but I hope you're doing great, man. But
how are you, Pastor? I'm doing well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, again, and just thinking about Rose of Sharon, there's like I said, a couple of things that I am immediately drawn to. Number one, it's just education, and you are an educated woman, and you have instilled that level of education in these children. What would you say is the value of education in making these children future world leaders, as you were just saying at the beginning of this interview?
Yes, that's basically the emphasis. We want to have these children educated, because if we don't educate them, we just end up feeding them and then throw them back into the street, and will not have accomplished anything for Jesus Christ. But if we give them education, they'll be able to, number one, fend for themselves, and number two, become tomorrow's future leaders, and also help others in turn. That is our goal as Rose of Sharon.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, I know from one of my, from my experience in working projects all around the world, I think one of the things that one of the most difficult challenges is how do you take a child whose life has been birthed in trauma? Many children come to these children's homes from just extremely traumatic backgrounds. They wouldn't be at the children's home if it wasn't for an extremely traumatic case. But it's often very difficult to inspire these children to have these big dreams with their life. How, beyond education, would you say, I mean, because you had so much success at it, there's so many success stories at Rose of Sharon. There's not 100% success stories, you know, there's always going to be some other stories, but how have you put in a passion for these children to dream, like I've seen is so common in Rose of Sharon?
Number one, I would like to let you know that we specialize in abandoned children, children with nowhere to go, with no parents. That's what we enroll in our orphanages. And then as they come in, we create an environment, a conducive environment of love and acceptance and affirmation. That's number one, just to love them, to cuddle them, to give them hope. And then as we do that, Rose of Sharon is a Christian organization. We also share the love of God to them. That's of paramount importance, because if they know that my dad refused to be my dad, my mother threw me away, but I've got this big God who is also my father, who loves me, who can take care of me. That then gives them hope to begin to dream. And we see them dreaming as the Holy Spirit is working in their spirits.
Amen. Amen. You know, and just talking about dreams and how to get those children to dream. Yeah, I think one thing that you hit on more than anything else is this the reality of love. And if a child just knows they are loved, I can think back to when I was at Rose of Sharon last year. I asked so many children, what do you want to be when you get older? If in your wildest dreams, who would you want to be? And they all said the same. So many of them said the same thing: Mama Maruta, Mama Maruta. They, every single child there knows they are loved by you. And again, going back to the virus right now, I know you guys are shut down. You're all quarantined. Again, there's 4 different homes, all a part of the same network of Rose of Sharon. Do you guys have any difficulty in traveling from one home to another home?
Yes, we've got a lot of difficulty because public transport is not allowed to move around. You have to use a private car. That's number one. And number 2, it's difficult to access fuel, petrol or diesel. So we try to limit our movements as much as we can. But despite what is happening, we try our best to at least visit each orphanage, say once or twice per week.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I know with those 4 homes, a lot of people who are watching this, they might not understand a lot of the unique challenges that you have running a ministry in Zimbabwe. But one of them is this lack of fuel, and that's something that's been around for a little while. Has that become an increasing difficulty in the midst of the virus?
Yes, it is very, very difficult. Not only lack of fuel, there's lack of cash. I know you remember the last time when we came, we could hardly get some money from the bank. We still have those problems as well.
Yeah. Now, again, so right now you are in Bethel home, and Rose of Sharon is 4 homes, all part of the same network. The Bethel home is the youngest children, Mount Zion, the middle schoolers, and then you have Shiloh and what's the?
Havila.
Yes. Right now, one thing that everyone in the world's facing right now is how do I keep my children entertained being in my home? That's one thing that Americans are always talking about right now. You guys have over 100 children. I know at the Bethel home, it's a little bit easier to keep the children entertained because there's that great big playground and there's motorcycles zooming around everywhere. But what are some ways that you're keeping Mount Zion home and the other homes, keeping the children, what are they doing in the day-to-day?
What we've done because of food shortages is that we've created an atmosphere of competition so that we can come up with small gardens, vegetable gardens. And everyone is competing. They are busy working their gardens, growing some vegetables, some onions, some tomatoes, showcasing what they are doing. And others are also keeping about 200 beds of broilers. So that is really keeping them busy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And again, I love so many different things about the way you operate your children's home, and you do instill a major influence of competition in the home. The kids are always competing one with one another in a very healthy way. They do it while encouraging one another, but there is that level of competition, whether it be sports or singing songs. And so right now they're doing it with gardening.
Yes, they are doing gardening, and then on Sunday, each home has got a church service. They do their recordings. They've got their own preacher. They do their own songs.
Yeah.
They preach to each other. So I think they are kept busy that way.
Amen. Amen. Two questions. First, who is leading the race right now with the gardens? Who's winning their race right now?
It's Mount Zion.
Mount
Zion is number one. Yes.
Well, Mount Zion's got that big plot of land right in the front, so I can see that,
That's right. They are doing a fabulous work.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
They are doing an amazing work. There are so many vegetables, tomatoes, potatoes. They are doing quite a good work.
Amen. That's so good to see. Yeah, I said two questions. The second one, or I guess the second statement is you have a lot of preachers and future leaders in the church in Rose of Sharon. And so it's just amazing to see that even right now in the midst of this virus, that, when children can't necessarily go to the church, that they're stepping up and they're leading the way. And I know some of those older children, even some of the older girls, leading the way in preaching and singing songs. That's just a wonderful thing to see. In concluding this interview, I'd love to see what are some of the unique challenges you guys are having right now, and what are some ways that people can be praying for you?
The number one challenge is, of the 4 properties that we've talked about, only one belongs to us, but the rest are rented properties, and the rentals have skyrocketed within a few months, especially in these COVID days, and we are unable to continue paying rentals. So it is our deepest wish to build an orphanage or to buy at least one property where we can then relocate, say, the Shiloh kids to where it's near our school, so that we can save on costs in terms of transport, because we have to transport these kids to school every day, and it's becoming very, very expensive for us. Yeah. And that is number one prayer request, for us to be able to buy an orphanage, especially this year. We've already identified a house that is next to the school that can accommodate up to 70 orphans. It's quite a big, spacious house, and it's there and it's available. But what we don't have is the money to then buy that house. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you're watching this, put that at the forefront of your prayers. There's so many different challenges in operating a children's home or any type of project working with orphan children. Children coming from, again, something that we've talked about throughout this interview, children coming from traumatic backgrounds, how to instill a passion and a self-actualization in them is such a challenge. But these challenges, they become so much more stressful and pressing with the reality of all these unnecessary bills, in paying rent being one of them. We've talked about the economic turmoil that Zimbabwe has encountered over the last 5 years, decade, and that, like you've said, has caused the rent to skyrocket there. And so if you're watching this, please pray for Dr. Maruta, pray for Rose of Sharon, and pray that they can acquire this land and get the funding that they need to acquire this land. Dr. Maruta, like I said, congratulations on all the achievements you've had recently. you're doing a tremendous work in Zimbabwe, not only with the children that you've seen, but just across the board. Dr. Maruta, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for doing this interview. It's so good to see you. And so, yeah. So I
yeah,
look forward to the.
and we really love you here in Africa. You are doing an amazing work, Kwame. We want to say thank you for the love, the passion that you exude as you come to visit us. You really genuinely love the children, and may God bless you for that.
Oh, well, you're doing an amazing work there. Like I said, you know, when I was there last time, I think one of my favorite days was just to be able to meet with so many of the children who have grown up from Rose of Sharon. And again, you mentioned a mayor living in Harare. But there's people all over Zimbabwe who are changing Zimbabwe in a positive way. There's people doing ministry in the prisons. There are people who are local businessmen and business women, and there are people who are just changing Zimbabwe for the good. And so you've done just a tremendous job, not only in rescuing children from afflicted backgrounds, but also putting them on a path into on a course to where they could be leaders in Zimbabwe and leaders throughout Africa. And so, you know, I love the work that you're doing, you know, and it is just a huge privilege for me to be able to see you today and spend some time with you.
Thank you very much, Colin. We really appreciate. The children would like to say bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And bye-bye, Boaz. I love you guys. So good to see you. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you again so much for
Thank
taking
you very
time with
much.
us today.
Thank you. Say hi to Jane Wallace. We
I
send
will.
our love to her.
I will
Thank you
for
very
sure.
much.
But yeah, thank you so much. Y'all have a blessed day.
Same to you. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.